How can you make money off of your music as an independent artist? And I don't mean make money within the larger industry, but using your music to make an income. Let's dive into that. If you've got music that's already made, produced, mixed, mastered, and put together, there's other things that you can do with that beyond the obvious of sell downloads. And one of those things is take those tracks, strip it back, and almost sell it for parts. One great example is if you're in kind of EDM or any of the electronic music genres that might lend themselves well to stems and remixing and DJ play, well, you can provide stems as an additional option to purchasing the track. They cost a lot more and they are available in a couple of places. Beatport, for example, is a great option to sell the stems of your track. And these can be used in DJ software like Traktor and make for way more flexible adjustments and remixing in a live DJ performance, meaning someone could strip just the vocal out and have a different instrumental, or as they mix through, drop it back to just the bass line to go with a different track. Talking of stripping it back for parts, there are services out there like Splice, Loopcloud, and Noise, just to name three, that are constantly updating their sample pack libraries. So you could take that track that you spent 3 days working on, but have decided to maybe scrap, and strip it back for loops and samples that were original that they could curate into their own sample pack system. Splice, for example, has Splice Sounds. It's curated sounds from multiple different creators, and they have to come from somewhere. You can apply to be a Splice sound creator from their website, and it's similar for the likes of Loopcloud, Noise, and the other services that are constantly emerging and evolving now. Speaking of the fact that you write and produce music and you could maybe strip a track back to a sample pack, well, every single sample pack you listen to has multiple demos created for it. If a demo song of a sample pack sucks, it kind of doesn't matter how good the sample pack itself is. You're not going to buy it. However, if you've written a great short track, it's just maybe not fleshed out into something you want to put out as a full finished product, well, that's a fantastic option to put out there, as well as offering the samples in the sample pack to somewhere like Splice. See, a great sample pack demo is the thing that sells the sample downloads in the first place. So that way you can utilize the song that was written but maybe not completely finished as a demo and strip the song back for its parts and offer that as a sample pack and or stems. Equally, maybe there's just a sample pack you've come across that's really, really great, and you could then write a demo for that and submit it to these labels, because having a good demo product and a constant feed of new samples is exactly how their business is made. They need a great sounding demo to entice people to download samples to spend their credits, and they need more samples constantly coming in to keep everything fresh and up to date, and again, to get people to spend those monthly credits. Now, obviously, music that passed the muster and has gotten through to your final selection, well, that can be distributed to all of the major streaming platforms. I do this using DistroKid, and they distribute to the 30 or so major platforms, as well as many of the smaller ones via an extra network. And DistroKid sponsored this video today. So if you want to get all of your music out there at a price an independent artist can easily afford, check the description below for a discount off unlimited music distribution today. And once all your music is out in those major streaming platforms, each time it's played, it generates revenue for you. This is probably one of the hardest ways to generate a big moving amount of revenue, but even little old me with a few thousand people each month who like to listen to my music generates me $100 or so, and for the cost of $20 a year, it's a pretty good return on investment. And as an artist who wants to create and put music out there, it just makes sense to have a distribution option in the bag. It's even better that over time it generates and continues to generate an income that's profitable for it. As a general guideline to give you an idea here, around 1 million plays on the streaming platforms all combined will generate about $3,000, depending on where your fan base is, whether they're generally premium subscribers or which services they're using, but that's a rough ballpark that gives you an idea. I wouldn't necessarily pursue this as a main source of income, but it's definitely a nice supplementary tip jar to add in there, and it comes naturally with being a music creator anyway. Now, that music that you loved and has passed your test and been released into the world, it has value in other places as well, like the games industry, for example. In my little niche of electronic music and drum and bass, the arcade racer games are a big thing. You see, they'll curate huge libraries of drum and bass music to go with the fast-paced driving action. But they don't just want the latest and greatest drum and bass tracks. Yes, they obviously want those, but they want to find some undercover, hidden gems and bring them up to the surface as well. I mean, how many of you remember Bus Driver Imaginary Places just because of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2? It's just a little something to think about, just how long that stayed with you. You can hunt through all of the games that might be applicable to your type of music and your genre, look for the developers. If you jump on their website, you can often find people like director of sound, director of audio, and those types of people will likely be far more reachable than the overall general game dev. You could reach out to them and say, hey, I've got this music, it fits really well with the kind of games you're doing. Are you working on anything at the moment that needs music? Send them a couple of links. One key caveat I would say here, make sure you always own all of the rights to your music. It's one thing that they'll really be after. Now, that music you've already created and look to push out to a game has values in other ways as well, as in alternate versions and edits for something like library music. For example, I run a YouTube channel. You may have realized that because for the most part, I do all of the music on this channel. Makes sense with it being a music channel, but I absolutely do pick up library music now and then if I want something of a particular style that I haven't written to go in the background to give this kind of feeling. I do hip hop beats and drum and bass. I haven't written contemporary down tempo, piano, chill out, relax, whatever. So if you've got, say, a indie pop rock track, well, strip the vocal away. What does the instrumental give you? Does it give you something that a creator like myself might find really useful? There are quite frankly hundreds of stock audio libraries available nowadays, and they don't necessarily have a restrictive license, meaning you can be on multiples of them. You could take that one step further as well and say potentially reach out to, I don't know, a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer that might want their own kind of audio sting but isn't someone like me who would just create their own. And last but not least, have you ever thought about selling your workflow? That seems a little interesting, right? A friend of mine does really well. He will either sing or rap in a particular style, and then he'll create the whole effects chain to make it sound like a particular artist. So he'll then be able to sell the shortcut of an effects chain that gets you to sound like Drake as long as you're rapping in that particular way, that you can sell those chains you've already built into your music. And there's even more ways that you can do this type of thing if you start taking, say, your website and whatnot into your own hands. And in this video here, I explore how I made round about 5K taking project templates and building those out into a project. So watch that next to see exactly how I managed to do that.